What is up, everybody? I'm here with my week 2 recap of this training cycle. It's a few days delayed just because of the Easter long weekend. I was away traveling to see family, and that included 10 hours of driving each way with a 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. So it was hectic, but we got it done, and training was honestly quite positive. Pretty happy to report that 2 weeks in, everything is right on track. No major setbacks, including life events like sickness, illness, or anything like that. So we're on track, and it really starting to feel like I'm building some pretty good momentum here, and training is a lot of fun. So with that, I figured I would talk maybe a little bit about my bench press for this training cycle, since I talked about kind of my approach to the lower body training in week 1. Coming out of the meet, bench press was honestly the most disappointing of the 3 lifts, just because bench training had been going really, really well. It was kind of trending in that 190 kilo range for a good portion of the training cycle, and typically my top end bench is actually a little bit better than projected. So I was kind of hoping to go in and hit a minimum of 185 kilos, and unfortunately I got super sick 3 weeks out for just about 2 weeks, and I think that derailed a lot of the bench progress a lot. I lost 3 kilos twice in those 2 weeks, so I lost 3 kilos, gained it back, lost 3 kilos again, and obviously that didn't help my performance at all. But because my lower body was heavily impacted by the adductor tear, I thought bench would kind of be the lift of the 3 that I was most satisfied with, but honestly I was not. I went 2 for 3, missed 182.5 on my third, and that left me with a 177.5 kilo bench, which is probably the lowest I've benched in competition in years for sure. So that was definitely something that I wasn't happy with, and for the first time in almost ever, I missed my bench nearing lockout, kind of in that transition point from chest to lockout. And coming out of the meet, reflecting on my bench, there's a few things that I took away from it. First being, I didn't really focus any effort on tricep or lockout type work. And in the past, I've done a lot of close grip. This past training cycle, I didn't. My primary secondary bench movement was pin press, which I've had really good success with, but I always paired that with a close grip variation of some kind, and I think that was probably to my detriment. Obviously the lack of body weight didn't help, but I do think removing close grip from my training probably impacted my performance on meet day. Additionally, because I had been training for football for the past couple years, my bench technique had changed. So in the past, I'd utilized kind of the Japanese grip or bulldog grip with the externally rotated elbows and really heavy flare on the chest. And going into this meet, I did more of a bodybuilder style bench press. So I tucked a bit harder, and that additional rotation from tuck to flare, I think, is ultimately what caused my miss in that midpoint, where I just couldn't get my elbows back around and under the bar enough to lock it out. So I think it was a combination between having a weakness that I developed in my lockout, kind of my triceps specifically, and a bit of a technique issue that had developed just based on the type of training that I was doing. So this training cycle coming up here, I've adjusted my bench technique to how I was pressing in the past, basically the same sort of technique that I was using when I benched the 192.5 back in 2018. And I've also added close grip back into the training cycle, as well as some bench versus bands, which seem to really be targeting that movement or that position in the bench stroke that I struggled with in the competition. So it's really forcing me to get my elbows back under the bar to kind of accelerate from the chest through lockout. So we'll see how this goes. Hopeful that by kind of addressing my technique and targeting that lockout slash transition point in the bench press will help me get back in that 185 5+ range. So yeah, that's kind of the approach for bench press going forward. That's about all I got to say on that topic for now. Next week, I'm going to talk about my upcoming meet schedule because things are starting to take shape a little bit there, and I'm getting pretty excited about it. The next meet that I have on my radar has some pretty exciting details related to it, and I think it's going to be of interest to quite a few people. So once that becomes public, I'm going to be sharing that with everybody. So this vlog is going to kind of turn into a meet prep series, I guess, if you will. And if you have any additional questions, comments, or topics you want me to cover in the future, leave them in the comments below. I will talk to everybody next week.